Rajama Yanda Mazo Rivana Shazon Demban Devare Shavan Jelen Given the Vakalon Jovana Adam Benon Sanje Jumden Ben Yawa Shaja Tubana Chat Should I just Shawan Demba Jumden Den Shavan Raju Yanda Banzobe Sanje Rivana Shazon Devare Jilin Jamba Given the Vakalon Jovana Sanje Jumden Yawa Shaja Tubana Chat Should I just Shawan Demba Jumden Den Shavan Raju Zobe Sanje Rivana Shazon Demba Devare Shavan Jilin Given the Vakalon Jova Lana Meva Adam Benon Sanje Jumden Yawa Shaja Tubana Chat Kanser Ganyan Zowa Jadam Sea Sajan Den Ganen Jilin Dena Choje Zowan Teze Namda Kunga Choto Susan Waji Shejato Sejan Chaban Jilin Sun Gombo Chonye Jala Cha Zeno Chenjo Demba Chimen Sendon Rawa Jala Cha Zeno Dire Jala Nyame Jenjen Jala Cha Zeno Gombo Tuje Chen Tamje Chen Sonam Yenden Jazo Chen Di Shen Shala Cha Zeno Taben Tuje Given as one that the Denum Chokyo Shinjun Cha Chene Trevelanya, the Lava Taba, Rabne, Singer Tam Gindulanya Cha Zenon de Wachin and Rangizemneyon the Tene Sanje Tempanya, Kamara, Yuma Seva Chubra Melon Lota Genda, Decision, the Terta, Sonam Dietum Jeseva, Kobantum, Junior Dati, God another Shira Latre, Civil Son, 100.
To the teacher, the blessed one, the one who be full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Subrata, no other, supreme guide of beings to be attained, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, subdue from the secular clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the teacher, the blessed one, the one born beyond, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, no other word, supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, the subdue from the Shakya, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the teacher, the blessed one, the one born beyond, the full destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, no other word, supreme guide of beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and humans, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the blessed one, the glorious conqueror, subdue from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When, O supreme among humans, you are born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise, then I prostrate. With the pure body's form supremely pure, with the motion like golden mountains, fame that blazes in the 3 words, we know the best, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. You are immaculate, the 3 words are an incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior in great compassion, the teacher in all understanding, the field of myriad qualities like a vast ocean, to you the one gone to dustness I prostrate. The purity which makes one free from attachment, the virtue which frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime, pure reality, to the Dharma which pacifies I prostrate. Those who are liberated and also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts, to you the sublime community intending virtue I prostrate. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, Perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the star, a mirage, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning or cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain rank of all seeing, subdue the four thoughts, and be delivered from ocean of suffering, of aging, sickness, and death. I go for refuge and enlightenment to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge and enlightenment to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. I go for refuge and enlightenment to the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. Through the merit I create by practicing giving and the other perfections, may I quickly attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings.
So this translation is a little bit maybe better. This is a new translation. So yes, last time we so these are the let me read this 28. With this has been completely explained all that can exist to cause effect, sensations together with the object of sensations, who sees invisible things.
What translation is that?
Fernando Tola and Carmen Dragonetti, something like that. In the good and good answer, I think this kind of now saying that the concept of the because our mind, the mind is very much the engaging or kind of active in those mental construct, which means the mind has a habit to skimming on those mental projections. So, and what are those mental projections that we see like a cause and effect? Eye, ear, nose, tongue, and then the form, sound, smell, taste, textures. So these concepts previously explained that anything that exists or not exist, if things exist, the existing is, I think this is defined through the conceivable or knowable or, kind of knowledgeable object, knowable object, conceivable, and through that we define something exists. And what are those exists that, by conceiving or, like a cause and effect, and the relation of the cause and effect. And 3 times the past, the present, and the futures, all that we accepted to be kind of knowable objects. Actually, these whole are through the language, through the concept, is kind of displayed, through language. Language means the letters, the collection of letters, the names, and then with that conceptually, identified in a single unit and separately. So this is how we construct, the idea of the cause and the effect and the relations, the past, the present, futures, even conditional things, even conditional things are all nothing but mental construct. So then then says, from the Stanzas number 28, it explaining that everything is actually, conceptually a construct, all the conceptually displayed, right? And nothing that really intrinsically exists. And then the question comes, saying that if the things do not exist by their own intrinsic quality, and how do you really think that the things are defined, like conditional things, they defined to be existing through three characteristics: arising, remaining, and disintegrations. The three characteristics, if three characteristics through that way, something you are trying, you can establish. This is the conditioned things, because it has arising, the arising characteristic, remaining characteristic, disintegration characteristics. So then the number saying that stanzas number 929 is because they do not remain, because they are admitted one in the relation to the others. So arising, first we said arising, remaining, disintegrations. We said birth, and then remain, and dies. Birth, aging, and dying. So if these three characteristics are, as we conceptually distinct, the birth, which is different from remaining, and the remaining, which is different from dying, right? And arising different from remaining, remaining different from disintegrations. So then, if this three characteristic has any kind of substantial quality, then we could, we could think that conditional things that really exist by their own essence, by their own virtual characteristics. And then if these three characteristics that you are defining through something is conditional things, if the three characteristics, one of that is arising. If arising is substantial, then, the future, future of the things must be truly exist, or the future of the things that exist by their own essence. The futures never really exist. Future never really exist in a form or any substantial form. And then for example, if the future has any substantial quality, and what is the futures? What is the futures, right? So, which has some kind of substantial qualities. What is coming? What is arising? So when we say arising of the sprout, what is that arising? The sprout is arising. Is sprout arising? The sprout which is arising, is it already arisen or unarisen? All right. If sprout is already arisen, it already exists. So there's no way it can arise, once again. If sprout is not arisen, is unborn, not exist, how can it has any kind of activity to come? So then you cannot have, substantially locate that idea arising, the idea of the arising in any form that is already exists or not exist. The future arising is not existing in anything that already exists, right? So because by definitions, if something is already exists, it's not a future. If something's not exists, not yet born, not yet exists, it's equal to not exist.
So if something not exists, how can it has any kind of activity or any kind of quality to becoming? So the arising is, conceptual projections, mental projections, So it is not the substantial characteristics. There is no substantial quality in that arising. And then the second says what is remaining, enduring, So what is remaining? Remaining means remaining of what? Remaining of year, remaining of a month, remaining of week or day or hour or minute. So there is no year remaining. Whole years consists of the 12 months that never remain in any day, any month. The whole consists of the 12 months never remain as a present, right? It never remain as a present in any month. In January, there is no, consist of the 12 month as a year that in January, not in February, not in, So, and then about the month also, never remain as a present, So, no day has consists of the 30 days of the month. So there is no such remaining. Hour do not remain in any minutes, right? Minute never remain in any seconds. So only thing that you can relatively construct remaining, enduring, with relation to, with relation to many things that is disintegrating, So many things that disintegrating, that there's many. One disintegrates and another arises, and that disintegrates, another arises. So they can mentally, I think it's in the mind, and you're collectively kind of, lined up those things that are disintegrating, like, almost like you're mentally counting how many things that has disintegrated, how many things that has arisen or arising. So you're pointing in the past and the future. The very basic is the past and futures. How many pasts and the futures combined you can say is remaining? Right. So this is almost like, finding, when the train goes, we say this train is remain, right? Because when you are in the train, you feel like train is remaining. So when you look from outside, there's no train is standing still. So mentally you can project the many things together, and you conceptually, constructing, or through the letters and the languages we imposes as the enduring. Other than that, there is no remaining. And substantially or intrinsically, there's no such things as remaining. So the remaining is mental projections, conceptual construct. And sometimes we construct conceptually, linguistically, we impose the remaining because it's not dead yet, it's not end yet. So with relation to the end, it is not end, therefore we say it's remaining. This is almost the same thing that when we already pointed to which direction is the west, and then we find this direction is the east. Without pointing the west, you cannot find east. So, so there remaining is also mental projection and disintegrations. Disintegrations. So there, when we think about the disintegrations, again we think, oh, disintegration means there is a something which is disintegrating. When if there is something which is processing in the disintegration, so which means it is existing. So which disintegrate means it ceases to exist. And if things that is cease to exist, how can you say this is disintegrations? This is going to disintegrate, but disintegrations has no pinpoint, right? So so the three characteristics which can establish something is a conditional thing. So that three characteristics are mental projection. So therefore, whatever whatever you have established as something that exists through mental projections, that too is not substantial, not intrinsic. So that's why Stanzas number 29 is saying that you cannot establish anything that exists substantially, anything that exists intrinsically. Even you say the three characteristics, arising, remaining, disintegration, disintegrations can establish something exists, and that is not possible. So number 29 is that because they do not remain, there's no remain. Even the three times do not remain because they are admitted in the relation to the another, because they are inferred, because they cannot admit as a substance, because they do not exist. The three times do not exist, they are only an idea. So three times is, when the three times is a mental projection, it's the past and the present and the futures, the existing of their existing of the three times is mental projections. And then how can conditional things could exist? But every time when you touch things, when you look and when you hear the sound, it seems that yes, there are many things that substantially exist. So then when we analyze one by one, color, shape, sound, smell, taste, even the sound. So there is no substantial, how's that? Yeah, the color is the color is the creations the creation of many things together, like eye sense power, the light, space, and form. So the color do not exist in one factors. Color is not in the form, color is not in the light, color is not in the eye sense power, color is not in the space, but all together, consciousness experience the color. Right. Similarly, the sound is also like that. Sound exists with sound exists together with eye sense power in the air, right? And vibrations. So the sound is not if the sound exists in the air, so then if sound exists in the air, is it exists in the air? If sound is almost like riding on the air, or it is the air, right? If it is the air, and it cannot travel. Sound is not traveling through the air or with the air. Or, if sound is not in the air, sound is not apart from the air, and what sound that is that travels towards your air sense power. Why do you do that? Why do you try to go closer if sound is traveling? You can just say, "Come here, come closer to me." If the sound is in the air, and sound has to be, by calling your name, it coming towards you. So, so there is no, the sound or the smell is all, it's kind of like, what do you call it? Sometimes we use the illusion light, but it is temporarily an experience by the consciousness. The smell is like that. Smell is not pre-exist somewhere, not in the food, not in the eye sense, no sense power. It is together. It's kind of, it happened to exist and experienced by the consciousness. So like a color and sound and smell and taste and textures. So what you touch, is also part of that, textures. What you see is, another kind of, illusion like existing, the color, the shape. What you hear is that is the, temporarily conditioned with air sense power. As like the smell is also because of the nose, is not, because of the nose. The tactility is because of your body sense power, So, all these 5 central objects are illusion like created, illusion like existing, and what you touch is also illusion like existence. Where you walk is like the illusion like existence. So you are eating, you are sitting, you are walking, you are seeing, you are hearing. Everything is, everything is just temporarily created, projected, So there is no such things that you can pinpoint, yes, that the color that I see is in here. The sound that I hear is, is produced, or it is produced, or it is calling my name, or it is coming towards you, or whatever. It's all like illusion, like form. Sometimes it's the conjurations. It's a conjure all the time with many things together. So I think that's the now Nagarjuna is saying that this is why if you try to find something objectively, or and there's nothing you can find and objectively groundable. So even the 3 times, for existing of the 3 times, you have to, you have to conceive, you have to know through the projections. Beyond the projections, you cannot, know, you cannot conceive, you cannot understand the 3 times, because 3 times do not exist, beyond the mental projections. So now the question is, how do we project? How do we, with our mind, how do we project the present, past, the futures? So we say, or we project the present, saying that it has born and not yet ceased to exist. And within that, we project, but this is the present, because it has already born, but not yet ceased, not yet, destroyed. So that is how we define the present. And then how do we define the past? We says it had born and no longer found to be existing with relation to the present. It has once born and not existing with relation to the present. So that is how we define. Now, when we say that, we have to look on the both sides, things that had once born and not found to be existing, from the present. So that kind of, if this is not a mental projection, so this is not a part of things that has passed, this is also not part of the present. So this past, again, has no any essence to be existing by its own. Right? So it had once born and no longer existing from the present is how we define is the past. And then we say there's something to be known, something to be known, or something to be known, and something you can conceive. So if there's a something, and that is the time. So, if that time has its own essence, then you can say the past, is it exist in that thing that already ceased? No. When things that is already exist, and it is no longer a past. And this past, is it in the present? No. It's not in the present, not in the past, things that already passed. So, now, which means the past is not past yet. Right? The past is not past yet. Because it cannot be passed with the thing that already passed. So if the past, for example, today is the Wednesday, right? The Tuesday is past. So if the past of the Tuesday passed with Tuesday, and then when the Tuesdays pass, their past also pass. And then no pass for the Tuesday. There's no time. So you can say, yes, there is no time or pass because, the Tuesday, the Tuesday is already ceased to exist. It has become non-existing. Become non-existing is no longer part of the time. So if no longer part of the time, what is that past of the Tuesday which is you think is the time? Is it existing in the present time? If not, and there is no place to exist. So that's why I say, so we say one thing, the Tuesday once it exists, it had exist. So that part is the truth. And the second is no longer existing from the Wednesday. So now you can say Wednesday is here. I am in the Wednesday. So the Tuesday is ceased to exist. So Tuesday having passed with relation to the Wednesday is the time. So the Tuesday is no longer existing from the Wednesday. If it is non-existing, and there is no continuity of the Tuesday, Wednesday is not the continuity of the Tuesday. So therefore, yes, there is the continuity of the Tuesday, but Tuesday is no longer existing. So something that exists on Wednesday, proving Tuesday hasn't turned into non-existent. So now, with this, we say that the past of the Tuesday has to be time. It has to be time. But it is the time, but you cannot leave it on any factors. You cannot say this is the part of that and this. So that's why he's saying is, so what is that past of the Tuesdays making it existing? So you can say because the Wednesday is the continuity of Tuesday, that is the one of the conditions that making the past of the Tuesday is existing, and it is the time. It's just simply saying that, when the Wednesday is there, which means Tuesday is not turned into non-existing. Mm-hmm. When yogurt is there, the milk hasn't been dissipated. When yogurt is there, the milk hasn't been dissipated or discontinued because yogurt is there. So the milk not existing during the milk, right? During the yogurt, milk not existing during the yogurt is saying it is the time. So it's kind of, conceptually displayed. That's when it's conjured by the mind. The time is nothing but conjurations. So similarly, you say the Wednesday is the present. The Wednesday is existing is many hours which has already passed, many hours to come. So that past in the future of the hours of the Wednesday is the basis for Wednesday to be present. So you can say Wednesday is not a present because there is no basis which is presently existing. So then say, and why do you say is present? Because Wednesday is not end yet. Wednesday has already begun, already started, right? But still, when you say there's many hours, there's already passed, many are not yet born. So passing and arising, passing, arising, and because it's not end yet, is, I'm going to say, is the present. So it's again, is conceptually the conjuring. The present is to conceive the present as a time, you have to look into the mental projections. Beyond the mental projections, you cannot find, Wednesday as the present. So so things that had once born and no longer found to be existing with relation to the present is the time. It is the past time. That past is not past. Right? That past is not past yet. Then you can say, if that past is a substantial, it's not past yet. So then almost the same, like, or the past is conditioning the present. The past, which has already ceased to exist, also the condition of the present. The past, which is not past yet, is also the conditioning. So win-wins, almost you can see present and their cause, the past, is coexisting in conditioning. So now we say, there is no problem of the past being conditioning of the present. So the present, the cause of the present is, things that has already passed is the condition. Barley sprout, seed that is already ceased to existing, that is the condition for the sprout. Not the past of the cessation of the seed is the condition. Because the sprout is not born from the cessation of the seed. So Wednesday is not born from past of the Tuesday. Wednesday is born from the Tuesday. So this is, I think very, very, so very important here. So
you just said Wednesday is born from Tuesday, but can you really say that? I mean, the moment the Wednesday arises, Tuesday is.
That's why this is born. Effect has manifest once it's arisen, and the cause of that is already ceased to exist. Something not ceased yet, and the result is still there, and that is not the cause. The cause of the barley sprout, must not be existing with the barley sprout. So which indicates the cause has already ceased to exist. And what is that? The seed. The cessation of the seed is not the cause of the barley sprout. So, it's saying that if you think the cessation of the barley seed is the cause of the barley sprout, so between barley seed and the sprout, there are the cessations. So, which means the barley sprout has born from, non-existing of the seed. So then barley sprout proven to be born from no cause. And another thing is arising of the barley sprout which is not yet born. If that is, born from the barley seed, so then that arising of the barley futures has to born 2 times. So one, when it is in the future, it has born from the body seed. When it's arisen, physically formed, and that also born from the body seed. So the body sprout will born twice from the body seed. So the future is, not formed yet, not born yet. So therefore, it is not conditioned by the body seed. But it is allowed to be existing, but depending on the body seed. So this is the 3 times. When we think about 3 times, we have to, conceive and know through the mental projections. We have to, if you try to find the 3 times, you have to find in mental fabrications. Other than that, there is no way you can find 3 times, which means, still, 3 times is found in the mental fabrications. So therefore, 3 times is not substantial, So this is why, so because they are inferred, because cannot be admitted as a substance. So if 3 times do exist as in a form, in a substantial, and then 3 times may meet together sometime, because the paths of the Tuesday is very closely standing right beside the Tuesday. Tuesday, from the Tuesday, you can look from the balcony of the Tuesday. You can find the paths of the paths to Monday. From the Wednesday balcony, you look, so you can find paths of the Tuesday. So so this is we're saying that 3 times are, purely, kind of constructed, made it to be existing, within the mental fabrications. So once we understand that 3 times is not substantial, not physical, is not has any essence by themselves to be separate, to be kind of existing. 3 times do not have any essence. They are just displayed. They are just projected, constructed, fabricated, by the mind, and it is all exist in that mental fabrications. So there were 3 times not substantial. So once the 3 times not substantial, and the arising, remaining, disintegration is also same as 3 times. So if the 3 characteristics, so through that we can establish something is conditioned things, so that thing, the existing of their thing, existing of the table, existing of the body, existing of the life, is established, constituted through those mental fabrications. So that your life is actually nothing but in that mental fabrications. So I think that pretty much, it's kind of, suggesting that, and how do you find, a joyful life? How do you find miserable life? If the life is in that, exactly like in 3 times mental fabrications. So what is the joyful life? What is the miserable life? So that too is, so the past is once had exists, no longer, found to be existing from the present. The future is there's a, there's the cause and the condition to produce but not yet born is the future. So the future is not in the cause, and future is not, not exists other than, not exists other than the cause or the duration of the cause. It's not in cause, not outside of the cause. So if the future is not in the present, not outside of the present, which means, if you want to think, if you want to impose, if you want to construct, the future is the time. So you have to make it existing in that mental fabrication. So and then, the Chandrakirtis and the commentary on the 70 stanzas. So when you could not find the 3 times at all, and so it's like, when you 3 times, it's not possible to be, found to be existing by their own. This is like, trying to find, how to say, like a path. It's like the way it not being pinpointed, the way it not being found, their essence is like you haven't found the son of the barren woman, So because of it is not possible, possible to be found to be existing, and how can you find the present which is depending on it? So that's the Chandrakirti says, So how can you find anything that is like a son of the barren woman? Now the present is depending on that. So Kange said, Debar Tatawata Mohambata Yena, So the way how the now we are kind of here the analyzing how this present is depending on, without depending on the past, present is not possible. Now, if the present is depending on the past, the very nature of the past is, exactly, it's the way not found is like not finding the son of the barren woman. Now you have to prove the present is depending on that, unfindable, unfindable concept. So now if it is a depending on the past, is it like the present depending on the past, like the flower depending on the vase, the pot that is depending on the table, and the bird that is sitting on the branch, So in this way, something you haven't found yet, now you have to prove the present is depending on. So the way depending, you cannot find the present is depending like the bird depending on the branches, flower depending on the pot. So if not depending on present is not depending, it is again saying the present not exists because it's not depending on anything. If it's depending, it's not depending like the birds depending on the branches, flower depending on the pot. And then how, in what sense, in what condition it is depending on the past. So tatawada mahobata devata tatawada sambachavos, So in this way, in the physically or the substantially, no present is depending on the past. No past is depending on the present. No future is depending on the present. Right? So no futures. Because if the future has nothing in it, how can this depending on the present? If the present has no basis which is standing still, how can it is present? So that whole, at the end was saying, because this is how we, how's that? Sometimes like, one side, it's kind of like conceptually consented, it's be, assume. So that's the kind of, is made up to be existing by the mind and made up to be existing within the mind. So in this way, cause and effect, arising, origination, disintegrations, all are, nothing but mental fabrications. So the conventional means is mental fabrications. So, when the Buddha teaches, when Buddha teaches, teaches the sentient beings in order for attaining the nirvana. So what he teach? What is that meaning that he was, he teaches sentient beings in order to attain the liberations? Is that the present 3 times the Buddha teaches sentient beings attain the liberations? So which are not true, is all lie, by teaching them, conventional realities. And if they can attain the liberations, they must have attained liberations long ago. They have this already concept. Every time they're born, they have, the past, the present, the futures, arising, disintegrations, remainings, all of them. Probably even the animals have the kind of same concept of that. So, so just having those concepts, having those mental projections has nothing to do with attaining liberations. And then what Buddha teaches, other than their concept. So can Buddha teaches the emptiness without the concept, the origination, disintegration, the past, the present, the futures, without touching on those, Buddha can teach or guide them to find the path to enlightenment? And again say no. So Buddha cannot, lead them to liberations without touching on the concept they already have. And the concept by, telling them the concept about that, is not going to help them to attain liberations. And then how? So then says, letting them know they're all their objects, they think they exist, are relatively, is mental construct, and mental projection, is displayed by the mind. There's none of those objects, the concepts, has any essence to be existing by themselves. And then they understand, they go into the space of that absence of intrinsic existence. So when their mind enters into the space of the absence of intrinsic existence, then they will find a pacification of the cause of the suffering. The pacification of the suffering. They can find, all this negative emotional is actually, I can find, yes, there is the possible, there to be ended. So in the stanza number 23, this is all the Buddhas, the considering the birth and the destructions, has taught the path to nirvana, yet owing to voidness, they do not exist. This translation, so now this stanza has to be read like, first you have to remember the question. What is the question for this stanzas? What is prior to that? Saying that when you say there is no intrinsic origination and destructions, and yet when there is no, origination and destructions is not, when there's no real origination, actual origination of the destructions, how can Buddha can show the, the path that can end the cycle of the birth? Then the question, then for that, to respond to that questions, and then says, Ginji dangerous. When it, when he teach, how's that? There's no path that has shown to the sentient beings just by simply teaching them origination and destructions. So yes, Buddha has not shown, path for the sentient beings simply by teaching them origination and disintegrations. Like Buddha hasn't shown the path to the sentient beings simply by he was teaching, yes, there is the past and the present and the futures. Yes, there is origination and disintegrations. And then if Buddha hasn't shown the path, for attaining liberations through teaching origination, disintegration, and what he teaches the, the origination and disintegration of mental projections. He teaches the 3 times is only exist in the face of your thought, is projection, is constant. And then at the so, and why the sentient beings have, they already have the concept of 3 times, they already have a concept of origination and disintegrations. So, and what really kind of, stopping them to attain the liberations? So why they do not understand these are mental creation? So then, since they are contradictory between themselves, sentient being, yes, they do have the concept, concept of the past, the present, the futures. So sentient beings, what kind of, what holding them to not understanding it, and then says, oh, they have this concept, and they kind of tend to think, the past is independent from the present, present independent from the futures, future independent from the present and the past. They think like this, like apple, orange, and mango. So that is the conditions. So finding the contradictories, So if you find they are contradicted and they are different, independent, and that is the misconceptions that keeping them from the understanding of mental projections of the three types. So then the question is, if they see the three times independently different, does that mean they don't understand what is the past, what is the present, what is the futures? Yes, they do see the three times through misconceptions. They are perceived only because of the errors. So they see, first the three times the concept, they have, and they see three times is independent, and they identify what is the past and the present through the misconception. So there's not much, from the Buddha's side. Buddha simply says Buddha is not going to change anything. Just simply correct, how you how you engage an object, or what to perceive object. So otherwise, there's no kind of changes needed in sentient beings. So we look the same with nose and eyes, and Buddha Shakyamuni and his disciples physically, all the same, Yeah, so enlightened, yeah. Three times like that. So I think here what is the inferred, because they are inferred. This I don't really understand. In Tibetan, is the churches, they, sometime. So if the three times do exist substantially, and they can submerge, and also, two possibles. If the three times are substantial, the three times independent, or if three times not independent, they mix together. They have difficult to understand about the three times. They have the concept, but to understand what is their projections of the three times. So either they go, it is independent, or they say, if not independent, or maybe three times not exist. So that's why some of the school says past and future does not exist. The present, I can say, I touched, The past I cannot touch. The future I cannot touch. I cannot walk on the future path. But you always says I can fly next to the future airplane. My future plan is still flying. So I think this is what we have the problem. We have the concept, but the concept to how it exists, how it constructed, that we have hard time understanding of this. It's almost like, it's almost like, the spiders who lost in the web. So the spider, they create this web, and for the spider it's impossible they could lose their web. So we, create the net of whole concept, but we lost in there. We could not understand. We are that spider. Confused spider. So so this is why objective when you look at 3 times never really exist. So the 3 times are depending on life, 3 times depending on the condition. The condition is also being existing, through the 3 times. So I think this is pretty much kind of saying that when there is no color to see, no sound to hear, no smell, no taste, no textures, and then we don't have, 3 times of the form, 3 times of the sound and smell and taste and textures. It's all depending on those things that we experience, So what we experience are things that we experience through the consciousness are the basis for creating the 3 times. And the 3 times are, 3 times are the condition that we can understand things are existing. So 3 times from the past, we can remember what we have smelled, what we taste, what we see, from the past. From the present, what we are right now, engaging or newly discovering, the things from the present. So that the things that we are experiencing through the consciousness is because it is the thing. It is the thing. That thing is also created, conjured by many things together. And that is these things that conjured by your sense faculty and the consciousness and outer element, and that conjuring the object existing. And with that, we say that past, I have this in the past. I'm going to have this in the futures. I'm having this in the present. The 3 times and the things are, totally devoid of essence. So there's no essence in the color, no essence in the sound, and no essence in the smell, no essence in their past, in the present, and the futures. So So that's the kind of, the things that we conjured through, sense faculty and outer elements and with the consciousness, and then remembering the things that in the past and desiring in the futures, So there we see the life in the present, life in the past, life in the futures. So that is, what is the life? What is the life, it says, is that the past, thing that, you have lived is the life of you. If that's not, or in the futures, or in the present. If the life is in the present, where is it? Is it in the consciousness? Is it in those forms that we conjured? And apart from that, is there any life to be lived? So then you understand what is the living. So actually, there is no life to live. There's no, there's no object, the color form to be lived. And you don't have to live in consciousness. You don't have to live in the sound or smell and taste and textures. And then if there's nowhere to live, and what is the life to live? So then it's kind of, life is together and with mental flavors, emotional flavors, and those conjurations together. We just named, there's a life to live. Right? There's the life to live. Life is not substantial. Life cannot be found outside or inside. You don't go to live the life in your body or in your consciousness. There's no way you can go out in the color to live the life or sound to live the life. So that's why it's in chilchers, they either you find independent or you just totally confused and mixed together. You could not really identify what is the past and the present. So, because the way we define the three times is very much with misconceptions, so therefore we could not understand, the conventional reality that we project, constantly projecting, creating, but still it confuses you. So the Buddha is giving kind of the corrections. He's giving the, his teachings to understand. So your objects are your own projections. So when three times is not really substantial or not exist, and the color, form, sound, smell, they don't exist from their own essence. So no condition, no things do exist from their own essence. No three times of that thing is not exist from their own essence. So therefore, the conditional things that is constituted to be existing through the three characters, like arising and disintegration and remaining, also the same, the things that it is all totally absence of essence. So not finding essence in inside and outside, not finding essence in the thing, not finding essence in mental projections. is finding the most essential. That is the essence. So, so now we have already discussed on the thing. Things means the color, sound, smell, taste, textures, and then all these concepts. And then there are characters like arising, descending, remaining. Their character, their past, present, futures, And then when you understand that, and then we understand what is compounded phenomena, what is the conditioned object, what is the unconditioned object. So when all the conditioned things are totally absence of the essence, and then when the conditions are, there's no such condition that exists by their own essence. How can unconditioned to be, existing, by their own essence? So, like saying that if the so what is the condition and unconditioned? For example, when we say when there is obstructive form, when there's obstructive form, and we say at the absence of obstructive form, absence of obstructive, absence of obstructive contact is the space. It is unconditioned. So the unconditions of the space is known through the obstructive form. When we experience what is obstructive, and then with that we can understand what is not obstructed, what is unconditioned, how the space is unconditioned. If you do not have any knowledge of the obstructive form, and you cannot have any idea of what is unconditioned of the space. Like then many places you say sometimes, oh, this kind of fruit, it is grow or produce in this particular, area with this particular the condition, the weather conditions. Then this fruit may not be conditioned in somewhere, whether the condition is not same as this. For example, so the coconut is conditioned in that hot area. So the coconut cannot be conditioned in a cold area. So the condition and unconditioned always define, through the conditional things. So which means the unconditioned are also not really intrinsic, independent form. So unconditioned is conceptually designated with conditional. If this is the condition, that is not conditions. So that condition and unconditioned, all the conditions we have proven not exist intrinsically, and how can unconditioned could remain intrinsic? So yeah, again, therefore the condition and unconditioned also the conceptual designation. So therefore, again, you say, you know, Chandrakirti is reminding from the beginning of the stanzas, you know, when we say arising, so that arising, you know, we cannot deny it existing, but arising cannot be perceived with the things that already arisen. The arising is also not perceived with things that is not born. So other than that, there is no arising. You know, arising either in unarisen thing or the arisen things. So when the arising is not at all with the things that already arisen, and how can arising be active in things that not born? So unborn, non-existing, you know, how there is, you can say, this is arising. So this is why saying, again, going back saying, so the light arising that you think it exists, you know, there's no any basis, you know, to inherent. So therefore, you know, understands the arising is conceptual fabrication. So the conditioning is also the fabrication. Unconditioned is also fabrication. What cannot be conditioned, what cannot be fabricated is the absence of intrinsic. It's before the Buddha, during the Buddha, after the Buddha, always. You know. So that is unreached of the concept proliferations. So this is why we say ultimate truth. So you see, everything that you think it is existing, and there's always, with so many reasons, that is, not exist. Like arising, with many reasons, arising is the future, it exists, it is the time. But there are many reasons to say there is nothing to be arising. So I sometimes feel like this, the very, so if you can prove something that exists, and there's many ways to prove this does not exist in this way. So I find it's very kind of like, maybe there's a relevant. In computer, the language is just 0 and 1. Yeah, that's only the language they have. So from there, and there's so many things happen. So yeah. So I think for the Buddhisms, so their kind of their practice. For the Buddhism, we always think that the seeking liberation is because of the suffering. So the suffering and the liberations, almost the both truly exist. So when we see, it's logically if the suffering is truly exist, like nirvana, it truly exists, then suffering in nirvana, suffering in liberations is independent. The both are truly exist. So then your idea of seeking liberation is almost like you don't like one place and then you want to move to another place. So this kind of mental, mentality or mental attitude, with this you're trying to find the liberations, when actually the liberation, nirvana, is the essence of the nirvana is, while you are in samsara, the essence of nirvana is always with you. So that's like saying, having, as I mentioned, you have the fear, constant fear, and sometimes you're trying, for example, the fear because you thought that at the corner of the quiet road, that is the snake. Then the fear is there. So now think this fear, if this is truly exists, so there is a snake, therefore I'm always afraid. So that's, the fear is truly exists. The freedom from that fear is another independent true nature. So the freedom from that fear, is kind of, you have to attain the freedom from that fear. When fear is within this house, and you have to find the freedom from that fear is other house. So you cannot achieve the freedom from the fear within this house, because you are suffering from the snake, right? So it truly exists. So and then you cannot, maybe there's no possible you can, even you find this is the coil rope, there is no snake at all. At that time, you cannot find the freedom from the fear of the having snake in your house. Because to achieve the freedom, you have to go out. If you can find the freedom from fear within this house by revealing that coil rope is actually a rope, not a snake, there is no snake at all. So the nirvana is the reason of the nirvana, the basis for nirvana is already there when you are suffering from the fear of having snake in the house. So therefore, suffering is not truly exist. It is suffering that you experience from the misconceptions, So no snake is a snake. So nirvana is, there's no slightly difference from the samsara. Samsara is no slightly difference from the nirvana, So, and if the samsara and nirvana is no difference at all, even the slightly, why you're not achieving nirvana? Because your mind is superimposing on each of every form, every object. So when you overcome that superimposition or the misconceptions, and you are, So there's no physical change. Your nose still remain the same size, same shape, right? So the suffering is not truly exists. Therefore, there's a possible achieving nirvana. If suffering is truly exists, nirvana, probably you can buy it. Yeah, if suffering truly exists, you just cut the suffering side and you buy nirvana, If the person who is achieving are going to achieve, again, if it is truly exist, and then when he is in the conditional suffering, and that he is truly exists in that conditional suffering, and him exists with the conditional suffering, is truly exists, then he cannot achieve nirvana. If he is independent from the suffering, if he is independent from the afflictive emotion, and then end of the afflictive emotions, or the cessation of afflictive emotion is not his quality. This is like, when your jacket, when your jacket is dirty, right? Or it is clean, right? It's not going to make you a difference because you are independent. So you say, "Oh, this jacket is very expensive." I can see you are you are purified, or you're just how's that? Yeah. So when the jacket is clean, you can still remain not clean. So so the suffering and the person who is experiencing the suffering is not independent. Yeah. So. So since the birth and permanence and the distractions, these three characteristics or the conditioned things do not exist. Because of this, what is conditioned and what is not conditioned, nothing exists. So the conditional things, and what makes conditional things, the both are nothing but mental construct and mental fabrications. And the condition and unconditioned is also, unconditions are purely constructed by depending on the conditional. When there's no conditional, and there's no unconditional. When there's no obstructive form, there's no space. So so as I mentioned, like when there is the coconut that born through hot conditions, hot weather, and so unconditioned of the coconut in the cold weathers is not possible, right? Because the coconut is required and needed on the hot weather. So when hot weather is not there, there's no, no product of the coconut. So it's unconditioned. So when there is, conditional suffering, when there's the conditional suffering, no suffering is, this nirvana is unconditional. So Because when there is the conditioning, afflictive emotion, the karma is conditioning your consciousness. When all the karma and afflictions ends, so nirvana is unconditional. So nirvana is not independent from that. Yeah. So then the stanzas number 31. So distractions does not exist for what has not yet been destroyed, nor does it exist for what has already been destroyed, does not exist for what has already endured, or permanent does not exist either for what is not yet endured. Birth does not, how's that? Birth does what has already been born. So here the distractions, mashik minjik, so here the mashik minjik. So what is, when we say, what is the disintegration? What is we say impermanence. The impermanence is the disintegrations. So impermanence and disintegrations. Disintegration means, does that mean already cease to exist or not cease yet? If the impermanence that you think it is a functioning, impermanent means to you is things that cease to exist. And then any things that already cease to exist has no disintegrations. Is something that is not ceased yet, not disintegrate. And there is no disintegrations. So what do you mean by, there's the disintegration, there's the impermanence, there's the instant changing. What is the change? So there's no change of the milk in the yogurt. So there's no change of the milk in the yogurt. During the yogurt, there's no change of the milk. So when the milk is not changing, there's no change. So milk hasn't changed into yogurt, there is no change. And when during the yogurt, and there's the change of the milk, there's no. So what do you mean by changing? So I think, which means when we think about impermanent change, we think there's a, like almost like for us, when we think about impermanence, almost like you are in the, train or bus, and you see everything's changing. But you yourself, there's no change at all. So you're just looking at things are changing. So there is no such thing like that. You just remain unchanged. Everything that you see is changing. So if you are not changing, there is no change. If you are changing, and then you cannot find, there is the change. So what do you mean by change? What do you mean by disintegration? What do you mean by instant changing? So if you think instant change means there's one thing, the constant popping up, means this is not changing. It's like almost like you just changing your clothes. You are the same person. So if this is the change means to you is, what is changing, that thing, the things that are changing, that thing is existing, how's it, constantly existing, and there is no change. So if the change means to you, and the change means to you, and that thing is totally non-existing, then again there is no change. So non-existing of you has no change, or constant existing of yourself is there's no change. So which means in the ordinary, I think most of the people think, oh, impermanence may happen when we die. This means like impermanence means, oh, the leaves are falling on the ground, turning yellow. The weathers are changing, hot to the cold to the hot. So we think, oh, that is changing. So I may change maybe after 10 years. So it means you're not changing yet. So you find, permanent nature. It's there's some kind of, there's a contradictory in your mind. You can remain for a while, permanent, and then change. So anything that remains unchanged or permanent, there is no change. Anything that is totally ceased to exist, that is not their change. So there is no change during the yogurt. There is no change of the milk. Right? During the sprout, there is no change of the seed. If seed is not changing, the seed, before the sprout, if the change of the milk is only when the milk turns into yogurt, if this is what you mean is change, and during the yogurt, there is the change of the milk. There is the milk. Yes, I was milk. See, from the yogurt, something has popped up. Say, I was, long time ago, I was a milk. So I think there's in the small things that we thought, or we have come to understand that impermanent means. So impermanence, either you think is totally cease to exist, that is impermanence to you, or things wait and then immediately and it turn into something that is impermanent. So the both of side, you are misunderstood impermanence. So it is saying that the distraction does not. Anything that ceases to exist is, there is no disintegration of that thing. Mashik Minjiks. Shiba means things that is already destroyed and there is no change. There's no disintegrations. When the true state is already passed, there's no disintegration of the true state. When there is no true state, so does it exist for what has already been destroyed? And then it says, mashik minjik, if something is not disintegrate, never mind this, So now here, before we say, never means remaining, enduring. The condition of something that endures, something that, something that prolonging the life of the things. So that conditions, what conditioning, for example, today is the Wednesday. What conditions should the Wednesday endure for 24 hours? So again, we say the condition that endures to Wednesday remain for 24 hours is arising and disintegration in the remaining. 33 times. So these 3 times are also, conditioning the Wednesday to disintegrate. So if something, then we say 3 times of the Wednesday, 3 times of the Wednesday, if it is conditioning the Wednesday to remain, so to remain. So 3 times of the Wednesday is also destroying, remaining of the Wednesday. If there is no condition for remaining from the Wednesday, then the Wednesday cannot remain, it cannot endure. So what you think is the remaining, if this is lacking the 3 characteristics or the 3 times, then Wednesday has no condition to remain, no condition to endure. So without the 3 times, or 3 times of the characteristic of the Wednesday, there's no remaining of the Wednesday. So without 3 characteristics, Wednesday could not endure, or Wednesday 3 characteristic is not going to make remaining of the Wednesday. So then what is the remaining? How the present could remain? So something that is not enduring, something not enduring, is also not enduring or remaining, like rabbit horns, right? So there is no remaining or there's no enduring of that. And of anything that is opposite of that, if the conditionings are through 3 times, they're constantly disintegrating. So what is actually, you can find something that is enduring. And then say, anything that is, anything that is arisen is not arising, and unarisen is not arising. And what is that thing? What is this that thing could arise? So in this way, conditioned, unconditioned. So all are, so conditioned and all unconditioned, so all are same. There is no any essence from their own, So similarly, here's the tumamaye chumaye, and then many in one, or singular or the plurals. The singular or the plurals, all of them, if we objectively analyze, there's no many, there's no one. And essentially, So then, if everything that you think it exists, there's a many way you find it does not exist. And how can you define something that exists and this is not non-existing? So then says, in this, the term, in this term, I think what it says that English translations. Yeah, there's not much. But it's, in Tibetan we say, now, everything that you think it exists, and there's many logic to prove not existing, right? It's almost like, maybe one reason, from one single reason, you can constitute or you can find, oh yes, this exists. But there's the hundreds of reasoning saying it's not exist. So how can you cling on one thing that satisfies you as something that exists? And finally, who is determining how you determine something is existing or not exist? And then said someday, at this time, so if you try to find in what condition you think that 3 times exist, but you also have many reasons that 3 times do not exist. And now say the one single reason, the one single logic, or one single condition that you can find something exists, then I would say, letters, the languages, and the concept. So, only there's one tiny reason, then you can say, yes, this may exist. So, and that, the one single line, one single term, through the languages and the concept, so is it equal to, through the many reasons, not exist? So it can, remain intact, undestroyed, unharmed. How can you hold it? Then says the language, the term, and projections cannot destroy it. So that is called, this is why it's conventional truth. So this, you have no any logic in the reasoning and the conventional knowledge through. You can say 3 times not exist. You have no conventional knowledge to disapprove 3 times not exist. And then you have, the ultimate reasonings or objective analysis. Objective analysis cannot disapprove conventional is not exist. Objective analysis only says these are not objectively exist. So then this is powerful. The conventional, the terms are very powerful. So it is reliable. The Prasangika school says, to the minority school says, Prasangika school, when you negate, refute intrinsic and inherent, so you are following the nihilisms. So Prasangika school says, I'm standing right here. So the conventional reality that I am standing up, it cannot be destroyed, nor from the conventional knowledge, not in the objective, in the analysis. So if this is something unharmed, intact, so then through that conventional reality, convincingly I can perfect generosity, the morality, the patience, the concentrations. So it is not only being, unharmed by the conventional knowledge and the ultimate reasoning. So this is this conventional realities. With this conventional reality, what do you call it? So conventional reality is the basis for generating and the faith, compassions, all of them. So before the minority school says, when you refute the intrinsic, inherent nature in all phenomena, and you have no Buddha, no Dharma, no Sangha, you have no Four Noble Truths. So the Prasangika school says, yes, this is unbreakable and indestructible. So from there, I can say there's the, truth of suffering. There's the truth of origin of suffering. There's the cessation, that the path lead to nirvana. There's the Buddha. There's the Dharma. There's the Sangha. There's the law and cause and effect. There is 6 realms. So with this conventional reality, yeah, any questions? Any other question?
Construction and permanence
Yeah.
is a conceptual.
Everybody raised hand to say amen. Chanjusem jorim boje, maje bana, jeju, jebanyamba, mebanya, koneo kondo pewas. Tonye tawa boje, maje bana, jeju, jebanyamba, mebanya, koneo kondo pewas. Pamasim jentamje, dedan denjuje, ngendo tamje, tado tonwa. Chanjusemba kana sushube, dedagunje, molum jubjure. Karerabe kube shingazo, penda dewa manu jume. Jeresemo, dindin jato ye, shabe side batu.
May the precious body mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May the bone have no decline, but increase forevermore. May the precious mind, realizing emptiness, not yet born, arise and grow. May the bone have no decline, but increase forevermore. Due to all these merits, may all father and mother sentient beings have all the happiness. May all lower realms be empty forever. Wherever there are bodhisattvas, may all their prayers be accomplished immediately. In the sacred land surrounded by snow mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness. O powerful transient Tenzin Gyatso, remain in this world until samsara ends.
Thank you very much.